of and think about in terms of the way people think about SEO and SEO strategy is the fact that it's not really like other marketing channels. And so to think about SEO sitting besides the other marketing efforts that you're doing and thinking about it fitting into sort of that neat little box of an additional marketing channel usually does not set up sites for success. And actually the way to think about it is really within this idea of earned media advertising. So earned media advertising is kind of different than paid media advertising. And earned media goes back a long, long way before digital was ever a thing. So you can see kind of what the previous iteration of earned media looked like in the world. So here you can see Henry Ford gives $10 million in 1914 profits to his employees. So basically the theory here is that a company found out that if they can do something that's newsworthy and notable as an organization, and they can get included in the local paper, they can actually sometimes do that and leverage the activities that their business is already doing to actually get a lot of publicity within newspapers or the radio or whatever it was within traditional media to really build that awareness. And many times they could actually do that for a cheaper price than they could take out an advertisement within the newspaper. And so this began sort of this idea of earned media, where companies would both do newsworthy events, but also really promote and get the word out about the newsworthy things that they're doing. So they could earn attention and earn placement within media publications. And what they also found out in this sort of placement is that the authenticity that this builds by being part of the newspaper, as opposed to being part of the advertisement within the newspaper, also resonated with their customers and with users and with the general public so much more because it was natively integrated into the content of the newspaper, as opposed to being an advertisement, which they knew there was sort of this idea of, this company has paid to be here versus this company has earned the spot of being here. And if we fast forward to today into digital marketing, SEO plays a very similar role where it's not a paid placement, but instead it's an earned placement. But earning this placement is less based off newsworthy attention coming to the company as it was back in kind of historical media times, and is now based off of meeting the criteria of search engines to build visibility for the keywords that are most valuable to your business. So if we hop on the next slide, we can start to think about what that criteria is and how we can strategize around search engine marketing opportunities. So kind of kicking things off here with a little bit of vocab and a little bit of how search engines work so that we can start to understand how to build a strategy around these. So two pieces of important vocab here. One is a search engine crawler. So a search engine crawler is a piece of software developed by Google or Bing or Yahoo or any of the other search engines out there. And what this does is essentially functions like a browser, and it comes to your website fairly often, usually about once or twice a week. And it visits and collects all of your pages on the site. And it combs through and understands what text is on the page, what are the headlines of the page, how is each page represented in internal links within your website, tons and tons, and actually thousands and thousands of fields of data about each individual web page. It collects all those different pieces of information and places it into a database with those attributes and meta attributes about the page. And that's where the magic of the Google algorithm, or the search engine algorithm, I should say, comes into place. Google is by far the search engine with the largest market share. So you may hear me kind of using that interchangeably with all search engines. But each search engine has their own different algorithm. And an algorithm is basically a mathematical formula that puts all the data points that were collected by the crawler into a big formula and scores them together, and gives your web page a score for an individual keyword that gives you relevance and authority to rank for that keyword. And essentially this algorithm is opaque. So Google or no other search engine publishes exactly the formula that they use for their algorithm. And they do change this, as you may, if you're familiar with SEO, you probably heard about algorithm update incidents. We're actually going through one right now, which is the March core algorithm from Google. And this happens periodically a couple different times throughout the year. And when we see the algorithm update, really what it means is that they are applying different weightings to the different scores within that mathematical formula to prioritize either links to the page or content on the page or representation for internal links within the site, page speed, all those different elements that they can look at to grade a page and say that it's good or bad.
Hey,
And
Rob.
so, yeah, Robin.
I'm listening to you and I'm kind of like, oh man, I'm a B2B marketer. I've been doing this for a long time. And, demand gen folks, I feel like a lot of us try to dabble in this. We know that SEO and, obviously SEO is a big part of our content marketing strategy, but I think a lot of us, struggle, and a lot of us don't have the bandwidth to really absorb all these algorithm changes and the evolution of Google search and things like that. How do you guys, I'm just curious, like how do you and your team keep up with all of this?
Yeah, great question. And yeah, definitely something that we also hear a lot and hear as feedback and questions. There is a lot to keep up with. And I would say that that's why I'd say there are people like me out there that are kind of SEO experts and do specialize in this, and it does go very deep. But there's also some ways that you can approach it without kind of going into all the nitty-gritty different algorithm things that are out there. And actually, I think it's a great segue to hop onto the next slide and kind of talk about that a little bit. So the biggest thing and the biggest advice that I can give to a company who is starting off and kind of balancing SEO amongst other objectives for their business is really to take a look, understand what are the keys that you want to rank for and who is ranking for them today. And then you can start to do sort of a gap analysis against your website and then the whatever other competing site, whether that's a direct competitor or an indirect competitor who's occupying the keyword that you want to rank for. And the first question to really ask yourself in that idea is, is my site really reasonably on par to rank with these other websites? I think the probably biggest pitfall that I see smaller, either startups or companies that are kind of competing against really, really large businesses is to go for the biggest keyword prizes that they can possibly find, because the idea is that that will bring in the most traffic to them and the most relevant traffic. But I think the challenge that goes along with that is that we know many times there are these large established businesses in place who are occupying those keyword rankings. And so it can make that difficult to kind of put out content, try and rank for that, and essentially nothing happens, and it can feel a little bit disappointing. So my number one tip for that is to understand who are the sites that are most similar to your site out there. So it could be direct competitors who are of a similar business size. And the number one kind of metric to focus on here is the backlink profile and the ranking power of the website. And if you kind of start with that and you find a few websites who are generating great visibility within your niche, who have a similar ranking power as you measured through backlinks, you can then kind of understand what are some achievable keyword rankings based off of what that site has achieved through their content strategy. So I always think that SERP research and looking at the search engine results page for the keyword you want to rank for, understanding, am I reasonably able to rank for this? And then setting out a content strategy to kind of replicate what you're seeing as working within those different keyword environments.
I think that's awesome. And it feels kind of like achievable, right? Even if you're a pretty small team and you don't have all the content marketing resources in the world, you can kind of approach it that way and then think about, well, if we don't have a content marketing team, are there freelancers out there we could outsource to and just start tackling it one by one? I think that makes it a lot more approachable and kind of intentional and manageable.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree that there's always small baby steps that can get you started on things and start to get you traffic that you didn't have yesterday. And I think those, low hanging fruit opportunities or, working with freelancers and things like that are great ways to go after those. And
Awesome.
so to touch a little bit more on this slide here, this is really the way that we kind of develop our SEO strategies, and SEO strategies really always start with this SEO hypothesis. And where we start here is with, of course, documentation that we get directly from Google and other search engines to understand, what are the requirements for schema implementation for a certain type of structured data. What are their new algorithms focusing on and really covering and looking to reward or not reward. And you can go there. There is very, very dense and deep public documentation from Google on all of these topics. So as much as you want to learn about how these things work, there is tons and tons of free learning material directly from Google, and I'd highly recommend that you take a look at it. There's also a limitation to what you can kind of learn from Google, and they are never going to reveal exactly what's working or what they're looking for in terms of exactly you need to do this to your page to achieve this type of keyword. So another place that we like to go is third-party publishers who will read all that Google documentation and actually apply an additional level of analysis and recommendations to them. And there's some great content out there that's put out that's free and publicly accessible, all within different kind of SEO news sites. So I definitely recommend also keeping up to date with a couple of SEO news sites. I personally like SEO Roundtable. It's one of my favorites, but there's many out there to choose from. And then kind of that so there's limitations, right? So you can kind of understand what is Google going after, but you can never be sure of exactly which levers to pull for an individual keyword until you really dive into this competitor analysis. And here you can see a screenshot from an SEO tool. If you do a quick Google search for SEO software, you might just find G2. And we've got some great tools in our category page there that you can choose from. Many of them will give you this exact view. And what you can really look at here is not just who's ranking on the SERP, but actually who's been ranking and who's ranking over time, and who's been changing in rankings over time. And if you align that with Google's algorithm updates, and then combine that with the documentation, you can then put together a hypothesis that you feel really confident in, and you're ready to test and see what the impact to your website is.
This is awesome, Ross. I love the shout out to go to G2. Obviously, you should go to G2 and look at the SEO software category and start looking. But I also feel like this is kind of like a nerd's paradise. I think that there's so much good advice and content here for people, even if this isn't necessarily your area of expertise, right?
Yeah, absolutely agree. Awesome. So going to the next step here. So now you have a hypothesis that you feel strongly in, or you feel confident in. You feel like, hey, this is something that's aligned with kind of the direction that Google's documented that they're looking to head into. This is something that most third-party kind of analysis agrees with. And this is something that I'm seeing happening on the SERP in real time, that I have all these data points to build this confidence from. And then really building your strategy is about understanding, okay, where am I today? Where do I want to get to? And then logistically, how do we get from A to B? And this is really about understanding what unique resources do I have at my disposal at my company that I can use to get there. So whether it is kind of creating a content calendar to populate different pages with content and improve their rankings, because that's kind of what we observe within the ranking environment, whether it's making steps with the engineering team to improve the page load speed, or whatever other gap has been identified here. It's really then understanding how to logistically get the team together and get them in a place to where we can start to make real progress in achieving and closing the gap that we've observed between our site and then the site that is occupying the keywords that we want to rank for. And I'd say this is probably, especially within enterprise SEO, this is probably the most difficult part of SEO is, right, you can always kind of like look for opportunities and you can see a gap between where you are and where you want to be at. But then really like amassing these resources and bringing this into and keeping things on schedule and on track as you move through these campaigns then becomes probably an even larger challenge of just logistical. And I'm lucky to say we have a great project management team at G2 that helps me with a ton of this stuff and helps all of us with a ton of this stuff. And definitely recommend making friends with project management resources at your company because they can really help to keep the process on track.
And Ross, maybe you're going to get to this in a few minutes, but I think there's always been the pieces like the flagship pieces of content people think about, like, oh, we're going to do our content calendar, and to rank for SEO, we really have to have like a data dictionary or some sort of dictionary online, or we have to have blogs that contain things like what is, a SaaS management platform, for example. Is that still a real thing? How do you feel about that?
Yeah, great question. So I think content marketing through answering different questions like that, defining different terms, can be a great way to kind of build your visibility, build traffic coming into your site. generally you probably will not get great conversion rates out of that type of a traffic, because the search intent there is really just to learn and to kind of understand what that information is, and maybe not yet ready to investigate individual solutions or products, but still introducing them to your brand, to your product, and really reaching, if you're choosing to define the right terms and go after the right terms, you're building brand visibility and brand awareness, product awareness with your target market. It's just that they may not be in market at that moment to purchase. So it's always a great kind of long-term thing to focus on, but it's also a great idea to focus on those keywords that have more of that purchase intent aligned with them.
Yeah, and then I think if you're really intentional about it and you're standing up, let's say blogs or landing pages that aren't necessarily gated, like, oh, you landed here, now we're going to put a form in front of you, which is generally a pretty joyless experience. But you're more focused on kind of a more righteous, virtuous loop of engagement and education, then you could deploy some pretty serious retargeting strategies to make sure that you're capitalizing on the traffic that goes to the pages that you created, right?
100%. Yeah. And yeah, our teams have had some great partnerships over the years and sort of doing similar things just like that. And definitely recommend both kind of, mastering your SEO, but also looking for those ways that you can combine it with other advertising channels to really maximize your impact there.
Totally. Change slides?
Yeah, I think we're ready. All right. And I think that's actually a great segue to kind of go into this topic of search intent. And what you kind of realize as you start to go through and as you start to do keyword research is that behind every keyword is sort of this intention, right? And you start to understand, okay, not only what is the searcher looking for, but at a deeper level, what are they really looking to accomplish or looking to do? And generally, these get bucketed into three main categories here. So you can see here, and actually this is coming directly from Google, is that they defined all of the possible keywords within their entire universe of keywords within these three buckets. So you've got do, know, and go. So we'll start off with do. And do is the most important to G2, the part that we focus on the most, and the one that we'll talk about for most of the rest of the presentation. But the other two are extremely important in terms of the overall user journey, in terms of your overall brand experience. So definitely a good idea to remain balanced amongst these things. But also you'll kind of see why we focus on the do. So do is, I want to accomplish something, I want to take some action, I want to complete this thing that I want to do, basically. So it might be looking for instructional information. So how do I blank? But it can also be looking for basically this like transactional intent. So I want to buy, show me what the best is to buy, or show me where to buy. And really that is the closest to kind of this indication that a user is not just relevant to the category of software or to the product that's being sold, but also that they are currently in market and very receptive to information about that product. The second one is know, and this one is more of an informational kind of a search intent. So this is kind of what you were just talking about, Robin. What is this topic? Sometimes like, how do you blank, where it's not quite ready to take action on that thing, but it might just be looking for information on basically what the process is, which can then lead to a do query. And the final one is just go. So go is also called navigational queries. And this could basically be physical navigation, so directions to this thing that's located near me, give me driving directions. Or it can just be like website for, show me the website for, G2, or show me the website for Nike. People who don't quite know the domain to type in directly, but are just using the search engine as a navigation method. So I'm going to talk a whole lot more here about do, and particularly about this I want to buy type intent, to kind of go into this idea of transactional search intent. We can hop on to the next slide. So this should, I hope to everybody or most people on the call, this should look pretty familiar. So this is essentially a marketing funnel or a sales funnel. And this is a funnel that's all built within this idea of transactional search intent. So if you start to think about those other, right, like the informational, like the no and then the go, these can kind of sit above, or even with the go, it can sometimes sit below the transactional. But this transactional is really focused on, okay, I want to buy a product. I want to do my research and buy the best possible product. And there's a few stages within this funnel that the user goes through. And we've been really intentional with the way that we design the G2 site to both facilitate a journey through this process, but also capture traffic along this process, regardless of whether someone started their journey on G2 or whether they find us midway through their product research. So it starts with this idea of solution aware, where a user kind of realizes that there's software that exists to solve their problem. And they know maybe they've heard kind of what the software is referred to, what the category is called, but they don't know any individual products. They don't know which one they'd like to purchase. And then they kind of move on. They start to become a little bit more product aware in stage 2. So now they start to understand, okay, I know some of the names here. I don't really know how they compare to each other. So now I'm going to move into my product consideration, phase 3. Okay, now I'm going to do kind of more kind of in-depth research, more comparison, really get down to from my short list to that last few products that I want to research. And then finally, they move into making a decision. They are fully aware, ready to buy under the right circumstances, and just looking for the last couple of details in order to feel confident and move forward with that individual product. So I'm going to talk about how we capture traffic in each of these stages.
Wait, I have a quick question for you.
Yeah.
Just because I'm thinking while you're talking, but so in phase 1, you have solution aware, and it says a user realizes software exists. What happens, and I'm asking you this because I actually struggle with this in my job every day. We have this product called G2 Track, right? G2 has a SaaS management product called G2 Track. And when we're going to market and thinking about campaigns, I think maybe a lot of people don't even realize that software exists to solve the problem of like vendor management or how to manage like an out of control SaaS stack, right? So in the case where folks don't necessarily know what they're looking for or that software exists, how do you approach that?
Yeah, great question. And I think actually that's really where that content marketing stuff that you were talking about. So like the what is, the topic itself, those types of things. Those are the types of keywords that really take someone from problem aware, right? So like, I know I have a problem. Maybe it's like a change in my strategy. Maybe it's like just some kind of like template or spreadsheet method that I need to use. Or maybe there's some type of like specialized software that actually streamlines it and makes it super easy for me. And the consumer, the buyer at that point has no idea which of those things is going to be a solution to their problem. And I think that's really where sort of that top of funnel blog and that type of content can come in, because really there you can target the problem keyword itself, and then introduce them to the fact that there is a software category that can help solve this for you. Oh, and by the way, here's what it's called. And here's an easy link to get over to that page if you're interested in researching more. So I think the content marketing that we were talking about before plays a really important role in kind of feeding people into this transactional moment and converting them from sort of that like problem aware to this first stage of solution aware here.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And I'm glad you're saying that, because that means what we're doing on the content marketing side for Track is really right on.
100%. Yeah.
Cool.
So I'm going to kind of walk through the journey to kind of go through these stages of the funnel and show you both how we bring people through the funnel, but also how we kind of bring people into the funnel from even outside the G2 website as we move down. So first one here, so this is the first stage, right? So this is solution aware, where you realize there's software out there. You don't know any of the names of the software, but really you kind of have this thing you're looking to solve, and you realize that there's a solution for it. So this is really the traffic that's landing onto the G2 category pages. And you can imagine this coming in through a keyword like best 3D printing software. So this user is kind of looking for 3D printing software. They want to find the best possible software that's going to allow them to 3D print things, right? That's part of the search intent. But they also now have this like an inherent search intent or implicit search intent of, I don't know which products are available. And I don't want to consider all the solutions. I really just want to consider the best solutions. So this makes up about 25% of our traffic coming into our site currently. We love this traffic. We love to prioritize visibility around this traffic. We wish it was even more than 25%, and we're constantly working on solutions to do that. And we really love meeting the buyer at this first stage of the purchase process, or even before through our content marketing, and really helping them to kind of go through and start to form this short list, do the in-depth product research. You can see kind of the grid image on the left-hand side here. This is a great way to go onto our category pages and get a great sort of at-a-glance view of all the different products within the category, where they lie, some of the ones to focus on. You can also filter these based off your market segment and based off a few other metrics. So you really see, for users like you at similar sized companies and similar sized roles, which are the best possible solutions. There's lots of filtering, sorting options. It's really like I think you said a nerd's paradise before. Category pages are very much a nerd's paradise for the type of software within that category. And so if you think about the mindset of the user and think about those search intent things that we were talking about, right? So they're kind of like building this, now they're building awareness, they know a few products within the category. And so their next step here is going to be to create a short list of products to start to research further and boil down to where they really want to go deep.
Yeah, I think this is so important, and also probably a good place to mention that when you say 25% of our traffic is coming to category pages, I don't know if we've mentioned that G2 sees over 6.5 million site visits per month. That's per month. So it's an insane amount of organic traffic that's coming to our many categories on G2. And if you have a product or a service on G2, you're probably getting a ton of that traffic also. But just know that people that are in market for a solution like yours are Googling and landing on a category. And this is probably where it becomes very obvious that you want to just make sure your profile on G2 looks awesome, that your messaging is up to date, you have updated product screenshots, that you're differentiated from your competitors, that you have some good volume of reviews coming in, because there's, people that you want to be marketing to landing on that category page.
100% agree. Yeah, one of my favorite stats. So thank you for calling that out, Robin. We love buyers coming to the G2 site. We do have, at minimum about 6.5 million coming in. Many months we do many more buyers coming in. We are growing that all the time.
That's insane.
Yeah. And so now kind of like thinking about this next step in the user journey. So from the category page, we have this great ability to build comparison reports. So you're on the category page as a buyer, you can check a couple different products that look good upon initial review, and you can put them into a side-by-side kind of comparison report. And the amazing thing about buyer intent is you can actually follow the user journey as they reach the category page, and as they build these comparison reports, you can see the exact products that they're comparing against one another, which allows you to make that much more of an informed sales presentation or pitch or email or however you're contacting these users, and know exactly who they're comparing you against and exactly where to lean into your key features and your key differentiators. And so we have this great ability to go from the category page and start to filter and refine your short list directly from there. But we also get a good chunk of users coming in from these types of queries. So they may have heard about a couple different products on the market through word of mouth or through external research. And they might be searching in Google for this type of a keyword. So Fusion 360 versus Solid Edge. This makes up about 7% of our traffic of users entering through this type of keyword. But even more of our traffic lands in the category pages and then takes this to the next step. So really the search intent here is, right, okay, now I've read the category page, I scrolled up and down, looked at a bunch of products. There's a few that sound good, have good star ratings, and I want to kind of understand which one should I really do a deep dive with. Should I dive in further? Should I start to read in-depth reviews on? And so this is a great way to kind of get an at-a-glance view for all the different features of the products that you're comparing, for overall satisfaction scores, a couple of snapshots of user reviews of these. And really allows the user to then refine and kind of even make that short list even shorter, and then kind of start to do that really, really in-depth research to start to read individual reviews.
Yeah, and I think what you're describing is amazing. And it's also from the powerful point of view of the buyer or the person that's coming to G2 to research these types of solutions. But if I'm on the marketing team at Fusion 360, or Solid Edge in this case, I would want to be using G2 buyer intent so that I could know I'm being compared to Solid Edge, and then I could be retargeting the right folks at Solid Edge. If I'm on one of these marketing teams, like I would want to know who's comparing me to my competitors in this category, who's looking at my product, so that I can retarget them and market to them and bring them into a meeting for sales. So I can't help but like put my demand gen hat on, and this is just the stuff that gets me so like jazzed up about G2 buyer intent.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if you can imagine, like one of these companies knows that this research is happening and the other company doesn't have any idea that the research is happening, there is going to be one company with a very clear marketing advantage over the other there. So if I were these two, I would definitely want to be the one who knows that research is happening.
Yeah, 100%.
Awesome. So now this is the next stage of kind of the journey, right? And this is, okay, so now I kind of have this like shorter list. So maybe it's not one product at this stage, but it's a very short list. Maybe it's 2, maybe it's 3, maybe it's 5. But the user has now whittled it down from kind of what they saw on the category page, and they're really finding a couple products to go deep into. Of course, we also capture users at this stage of the funnel. So our entrances here make up about 28% of our traffic. So this is a very large percentage of our traffic where a lot of users find us. And so basically at this stage, right, they know the name of a product and they're ready to do in-depth research on this product. So at this point, they probably are heavily considering purchase, and they want to know not just what's the general reputation of this product on the market, but really kind of like what's the experience of users like me. And they want to validate that this is going to be the right fit for them, for their business. This is a huge decision for people to make, and they are trusted by their employer to make this decision. They really want to make themselves look good, to do right by their employees. So they really do go deep into these reviews and read many different, they interact with our filtering options on the reviews page. They start to look at different people from different size companies in different roles, and really kind of hone in on how is my experience going to be using this product? How are people like me reacting to using this product over a long period of time? And what can I kind of learn from kind of going really deep into these reviews? So here, this really is where this user is like almost ready to purchase and really wants to just kind of be validated, hear that those confident reviews from other users like them. So I think it, just as Robin was saying before, it's really, really important to have happy reviews, to be looking good, to have tons of reviews for users to interact with and feel really confident. And also to have fresh reviews in there so they can see that like, hey, this isn't a product that was great a couple of years ago. This is a product that's great today and it's ready for me to use it.
Yeah. And also just being a marketer that does this stuff in real life. No one really loves the task of review generation. I think that's, the work of a lot of customer marketers on a marketing team. And then you might have a goal in the beginning of the quarter that's like, you need to generate, 30 or 50 or 100 more reviews on G2 this quarter. It's like a focus for a lot of folks. And it's not always easy. You have to think of ways to kind of build it into your monthly customer newsletter. You can use our, if you're a customer of G2, you can use our automation levers. So you can, integrate with stuff like Pendo to automate review generation, which makes it a lot easier and kind of always on. But and yeah, we all want happy reviews, but the fact is, like the 5-star rating isn't always the realest thing in the world. Like it's good to get some feedback on the product, and it's good to give your team a chance to address any reviews that aren't 5 stars, to get in and say, hey, we heard you and we're tackling that in the roadmap or whatever. But it's just such a great and honorable way to keep the discussion going with your users and to have it on your G2 page, which is getting a lot of traffic from prospects.
Yeah, 100%. People who love things but don't give 5 stars, it does, you know, give that authenticity. And also then seeing, yeah, just like you said, like seeing the company then respond to that really shows that they care and really like kind of you see the way that they're addressing it, that customer feedback is important to them. So that really does go a long way as well. So that's a great call out. All right, we are getting all the way to the bottom of the funnel now. So now this is kind of the stage where this user says, okay, I'm decided on a product. I would love to buy this product. It has all the features and I am ready to move forward with it. But there's a few conditions that need to be met before I can pull the trigger and say that this is the one for me. And one of the biggest kind of criteria to be met here is this product in budget for me? And so this is kind of like the bottom of the funnel stage. And there is the ability both for users to find the G2 page through searching through this type of query, so Fusion 360 pricing. But many of our users also complete the stage of their research by going from the reviews page to the pricing page to validate that. Seeing the pricing on the page, we have a lot of flexibility in the way that you can frame your pricing. And I think for me, as someone who's done buyer research in considering different solutions on the G2 site, seeing that a company has added pricing on here is so much of a validation that the purchase process is going to be smooth, it's going to be easy, it's going to be transparent, and gives me so much more confidence in moving forward with them. Even in certain situations where the price might even be a little bit higher than I thought it was going to be, I think that is something that I can deal with as a buyer, knowing that I can have those conversations and sort of like pre-have those conversations before I need to move forward or I'm talking to a salesperson. And really gives the buyer that last piece of information that they need to move forward and say, okay, I'm ready to go. This is the one for me. I can afford it. All the information is here. So super, super important to have this information available, both because it can create more organic traffic and visibility for your product, but also because it is a part of the user journey that users go from that reviews page naturally to the pricing page and use this as a validation step. So we really do heavily encourage this amongst our customers. And we find that it's a really important piece of information for our buyers too.
Yeah, it's huge. And again, putting my demand gen hat on, if you're a customer and you're using G2 buyer intent, we now show you people that have looked at your pricing page on G2, which is such a super high signal of intent. It's probably the most bottom of the funnel intent signal in the world's history. People that are on G2 looking at pricing pages. So if I'm a marketer, which I am, I definitely want to retarget those pricing page views with my LinkedIn ad campaigns, display ads, you know, you name it. All of our integrations can really power those types of campaigns, but they're so effective, especially in an economy where our budget is just more scrutinized. You know, you have to be targeting the right people at the right time. And another thing that we have is G2 deals. So there's like, what company? I think Freshdesk is a great example. If you go to their G2 profile and you look at pricing, they're actually offering a deal through G2, which is really cool also. So I'm just sorry, Ross. I know I'm like throwing in too much of my like marketing stuff, but all this stuff really excites me and I can't stop talking about it. So carry on.
No, I love it. And I think that's a great thing is like G2 has so many great solutions to help with all these different processes and help with the user journey. I think that's just one more great example of that. So thank you. Okay, and we talked about this one a little bit already in kind of just some of our conversation, but we do also do some things that are non-transactional search intent. So most of this is coming in through content marketing and blogging efforts. And as we did talk about, this does play an important role within the buyer journey. And we do want to show people, kind of take them from that problem aware to solution aware idea through our content marketing. However, what we don't do on any content marketing pieces is ever collect any buyer intent signals. So there may be users who are in market and may be looking for products who do land on our blogs and on our glossary pages. But some users are also not yet in market. And so we don't feel confident enough to generate a buyer intent signal from that traffic. But what we do is use strategic calls to actions within our content to have those users go from just being someone who's reading an article to then actually going and exploring products on G2, categories on G2, and start to go from that reader intent to go to more of a shopper intent. So this helps us and help buyers kind of understand, okay, I've got my problem, help me find the solution. And also just builds awareness for buyers that G2 is a great place that they can come and learn about all aspects of software, as well as conduct really in-depth product research here.
Yeah, major shout out to the G2 content marketing team. They are savages. And I also do really like that you called out that our buyer intent is not really composed of signals that come from people landing on the blogs. So it really is people that come to G2 researching solutions, not reading educational content, which is really important for the quality of the buyer intent signals that we have, but also just that we're out there putting out great content that helps educate the market too.
Yep, 100%. All right. So I've talked about this a little bit, and I just wanted to kind of qualify why this is so important to us. So our category page traffic is sort of the beginning of this buyer journey, right? And so this is really where we love to capture buyers and users onto our site and then help them with all the tools that we build to really conduct the entire purchase research. And so this is great for a couple of reasons. Really, it's a win-win between both the value we're able to deliver to our customers, and then also the ways that we can help buyers conduct great research and make a great purchase decision. So if we capture a user through the category page, as I mentioned, many of them kind of move through that user journey, and we can collect user intent signals all along the way there. And this is so cool as like a customer of G2 to be able to literally follow someone through the research journey and see all the products that they did comparisons against, a couple of different categories they might have been researching in, the products they went deep in research. This gives you so much intelligence into making a great ABM campaign, a great sales pitch, any of that stuff, and really allows us to bring that most visibility to our customers.
But also running campaigns, not to cut you off, but this is also important for people in, supporting customers and customer CRMs and RMs in G2 world. Like this can be a signal of churn. If you're looking at, accounts that are currently customer accounts and they're comparing you to your competitors, you might want to lean in and check on the health of that account,
Yes, great call out. And also, one page type that I haven't mentioned up here that does play a role is alternatives pages. So show me alternatives to this product. And that is also one where you'll want to keep an eye on that for current customers to understand, are they potentially thinking about and doing research, or can we feel confident in their renewal? Great. And then, so this is also great for buyers because we can basically deliver them all these different interactive tools. We can give them, the ability to compare and kind of bring them through the journey. So I think this is probably the moment that everyone has been waiting for. We are peeling back the curtain and taking a look at exactly some of the optimizations that we do to our category pages. So I'm going to kind of start in the top left corner, and then I'll go through clockwise and cover each of the things that you see called out here. So the first one you'll see in the top left corner is the annual naming review. This is something we do each and every year, and we really ensure that our entire taxonomy of categories is 100% aligned with the way that users are searching. This is so important because this does change over time. And sometimes you see things like acronyms being used more often. Sometimes you see like the spelled out version being used more often. Sometimes you see these different sort of modifiers. So some categories are referred to as systems or platforms, some are software. Really understanding this keyword research and really what your users are searching for. But I'd say our secret weapon within the keyword research process is also our market research team, who also helps us understand where two different keywords may sound similar and one might have higher search volume, but that really within that certain industry or within that category, they do actually mean two different things, and we should actually be breaking these apart and targeting them with unique categories instead of changing the name of one category. So we have over 2,000 categories of software on G2, and we do an annual naming review every single year to go through these and make sure that we're reflecting the voice of the market accurately within our category names. And this is so important, thinking about the title tags you're using, the H1s you're using, all those different things that are kind of leveraged off of this primary keyword that you're targeting. So definitely recommend reviewing this for your pages. Also recommend reviewing this on probably at least an annual basis, if not more often, depending on your scale. So moving over to the top right-hand corner now, moving clockwise. So we do also put some content on the page to help search engines understand the focus of our page and which keywords we should rank for. We do use a great SEO tool, and there's many that allow you to do this, which is TF-IDF analysis. That's not the name of a tool, it's the name of a text analysis method. And really what this does is it looks at the current top ranking pages and the variety of keywords that they're using within their content and makes suggestions based off different ways that people can refer to these, that can be synonyms or subtopics that might be missing from your content. And basically does it in a data-driven way that uses what's already ranking on Google as a metric of success. Much more sophisticated than a human can do in terms of the mathematical formulas that are applied to this, in very much the same way that Google processes content on pages. So definitely recommend leaning into that and finding a solution that can help with that. You'll see the next one called out is new facet pages. So within our category, there's certain features that are very popular for users to directly search in search engines for. So it might be CRM software with an email integration, as an example. We've strategically gone through and found those combinations of features plus categories. And we actually did some work to make those feature pages indexable by search engines when they have search volume associated with them. So this allows users who have an even more kind of refined idea of what they're looking for to find G2, and gives us a ton more keywords that we can target based off not just the category name, but the category name plus a key feature that a user is looking for. If you run any type of e-commerce site or anything like that, and you want to really build your visibility and your long tail visibility, would definitely recommend you look into indexation strategies around your filter facets. The next one you'll see called out at the bottom is the idea of data as content. And I would say if you're an SEO person and you work at a company who has a large data set, definitely make friends with your data scientist colleagues. They can unlock amazing opportunities in terms of generating on-page content in a scalable way that reflects the things that users are looking for and turns your content into digestible data. So you can see some bullet points rendered on our category page here. These are things that we heard from user feedback that users were looking for in terms of data points about each individual product. And it also helps to improve our SEO rankings and build more visibility for all the vendors there. So the final one is not a call out window. It's more just a little title tag that you can see. And so there's a couple things you can see within the title tag window. The first thing you can see is that we update our title tags each and every year, and we reflect the current year, which does help us with both our keyword rankings and also our click-through rate by showing users that it's current. We also use dynamic title tags in the way that we show the number of products that exist within the category. So we show users that, hey, this is a place you're going to be able to get a comprehensive list of all these categories. And that also helps with our click-through rate, with getting more users to choose us versus other sites. Finally, what you see is what's called FAQ schema markup that exists in the little drop-downs underneath the main ranking. And what this is basically, it's a schema code that gets added to the website. And this schema code will actually allow you to improve your appearance within Google search by putting these like drop-down accordions underneath your keywords. We saw a really sizable, about 30% improvement since we added FAQ schema to our category pages. And again, this is a combination of both user influence through click-through rate by improving your SERP real estate by making your listing larger, and also giving them some internal links within the FAQ dropdowns that they can interact with. But also we saw ranking improvements from our FAQ markup, both by putting the content on the page and also by applying that schema layer to it. So across all these different optimizations, we saw a huge lift in our traffic to our category pages, and hopefully they provide some good inspiration and opportunities for you in sort of reviewing what's worked for us.
That's amazing, Ross. I'm really glad you work at G2 and I get to work with you. This is so impressive, and it really does, I guess, take a village. And also a major shout out to the G2 research team that works so hard on this. And I like your call out, make friends with your data science folks. That I think that's also such a super important call out, especially for companies that have, loads of data that they have access to.
Right.
Well, I think we have some questions in the chat, which I'm not looking at because I'm terrible at Zoom, and I'm afraid if I touch anything, my whole screen is just going to blow up or something. And so I don't know if there's questions in the chat. Maybe Aaron or someone from G2 can take a look and see if there's anything we have time to address really quickly. But on this page, you'll see there's some links. Check them out, G2 University for customers. I think it might even be accessible if you just log in with your G2 account. Monthly office hours. We have recordings of past ones. We're going to have some new ones coming up. And I wouldn't be a demand gen person if I didn't throw a requested demo in front of you. So if you want to dive deeper into G2 buyer intent or how to do more with your profile, reviews, stuff like that, that's the way to do it. Are there any questions, guys, that are coming in that we should address right now, or should we just try to address offline?
I see. So I see a couple of questions that came in directly through me, so I can address some of those. What I will also say is, so I personally don't have a hard stop. I can hang out for a couple more minutes if we do also have people on the call who are interested in kind of raising their hand and asking questions live. So the first one that came through to me is there a way to make a link from G2 do follow? So to kind of speak to this a little bit, there are attributes that you can add to links that basically will tell Google to either use this as a ranking signal for another website or don't use this as a ranking signal for another website. We at G2, since basically our content is essentially can be UGC influenced, so basically anyone can come in and add their product to G2. We do not make those follow links because they're by definition not editorially created. And so we want to do the best by our customers and also by Google's guidelines. And so there currently is not a way to turn a link from your profile page into a do follow, but no follow links, and especially a citation from G2, can still help your SEO and help to build your authority in the eyes of Google just by being represented there, even with a no follow link. I had one more question about third-party publishers to follow for SEO. So yeah, there's a couple good ones. My personal favorite place to go for SEO news is actually a site called SparkToro, and they have a trending section that refreshes every day and has probably 50 different stories in it from 50 different publishers around the web. Sometimes it's Twitter threads, sometimes it's an article, but it's a great news source and it's a great aggregator between different sites. I mentioned Search Engine Roundtable is a great website that you can get insights from, usually covers the latest and greatest around Google's algorithm updates. And then there's lots of other ones out there in terms of like Search Engine Land, Search Engine Watch, that kind of also provide some play-by-plays in terms of all things Google, different strategies that you can consider. So I had a question, how do you handle cannibalization? So it's a great question. So we do try to have a unique keyword target for every page on our site, but we do also have millions and millions of pages on our site. So we do land in situations where we do sometimes have multiple pages that target a similar user intent or a similar search intent. And essentially we identify those situations and either look to say, okay, are these truly consistent between the user intent of the two pages? And so should we actually just merge the content between these pages, whether that's two articles or two page types? Or is there actually a different user intent? And actually what we should do is work towards differentiating these keyword targets a little bit more. So kind of taking that strategy lens to it. And then if we think about differentiating it, usually we're trying to prioritize internal linking structure for the page that we would like to rank rather than the page that's ranking in its place. But we don't worry about cannibalization too much because we don't see it as an overall negative ranking factor. We may basically just see it as potentially users getting to a page that we'd rather get them to a different one. So another question, do we create alternative content and where does that sit within the customer journey or intent? Great question. So we do have alternative pages, and essentially the alternative page is like, I view it as like a circle back to the top type motion. So basically a user, right, like gets all the way down through the funnel, has purchased a product, has used a product, maybe it wasn't their favorite product. And so they're looking for a different alternative that does similar things, but maybe has different features. And then that can be basically, okay, show me which category should I be looking in based off that alternative. Or they could just like, they could be in a situation where maybe they heard one title of a product that does what they want to do, but they actually want to do more in-depth research on all the competitors. So then they kind of start with that and they say either competitors or alternatives to that product. And then that shows them which category they should be focusing on. So it's kind of a return to the top. Question. So what factors do we consider when ranking products on G2 category pages? So this is a little bit more for the market research team than it is for me, but I can say one of the main things we consider is, do you have the features that are required to be in that category? So are you relevant to show up in that category? And then from there, it's really about basically the satisfaction of your reviews, the kind of like perceived size of your organization and your business and your sales. And those combinations of things get put into the ranking order of the G2 category page. If you end up changing the primary keyword name for a software category, do you also change the URL slug for a software list of that category and redirect to the primary keyword URL? This is a case-by-case basis. So normally what we'll do is we'll kind of look at the search volume differential between the new keyword we want to move forward towards versus the old keyword that we were targeting. And if there is a sizable difference, then we will make the redirect. But we also kind of go into that strategy knowing that we'll take a hit in terms of our visibility for a little bit. So it's also something where if we're doing sort of that naming audit that I mentioned at the beginning of the year, we tend to flight out the categories that require a redirect and a change to the URL so that we're not doing all of those in 1 month, because we know that there will be a little bit of a dip before we see the uptick there.
Ross, this masterclass is awesome. There's a lot of questions. We're 5 minutes over. I'm glad people are hanging around, but I think we probably need to wind it down. I think we should, when we send out the follow-up email that has the recording, we'll make sure to include all the resources that you mentioned, Ross. And then someone did ask, and I'm curious myself, how many people work on your SEO team in English? How many non-dedicated SEO people support, like content creators?
So on our core SEO strategy team, we have about 7 people. And then we have about 20 in our content marketing team. And then we also, as I mentioned a couple of times in the call here, we have an amazing market research team that helps us out with expertise around different software categories and contributes a ton of content to our site. And their team, I think their team is about 30. And then there's so many more teams at G2 that help us out with content creation. So it really is like a big company focus and really a group effort amongst all the teams.
Yeah. Maybe I can drop our emails in the chat here for anyone that really does have a question that didn't get answered. Ross, are you just stop me if you don't want me to do this. Too late. And here's me. And we have other amazing people, Caitlin, other folks, Palmer, the head of our marketing team. Hi, Palmer. All these good people from G2 on the call. do feel free to reach out to them. We'll send a follow-up. You'll get the recording, all the resources that Ross mentioned. And you can always reply to that email too if you want some extra G2 love. Cool. Well, thank you so much, everyone. Thanks to the 75 people that are still on the call. And we'll see you for the next office hours.
Thanks, everybody.